I want to introduce Tzipi Livni. She has been Vice Prime Minister of Israel, and I think she served in 7 ministerial positions. I'm not going to say all of them, but she was the Foreign Minister, and I had the pleasure to work with her as when I was the Chief of Intelligence, serving the cabinet, and we were in some very important sessions, which very important decisions were taken. She was also the leader of the opposition from 2009 to 2012, and she is now with the Institute as a senior fellow, and she will be the keynote speaker. We opened the title, we left the title open, and she will take the lead. Thank you, Tzipi.
I congratulated Israel for killing Ahmad Jabri, who is the head of the terrorist organization of Hamas in Gaza Strip, the military. By the way, it's Hamas. You know, I think that when we relate to this terrorist organization, it's a terrorist organization. When we are talking about these are, you know, leaders, and these are the army or the military. I know why you mentioned this, but I think that we need to, all of them need to take responsibility. It means nothing about what we need to do against them, but this is the way I see it. And the distinction between terrorist organizations and legitimate Palestinian partner is crucial, not only for the legitimacy of Israel to act against terror, but also in rebuilding the camp that used to be in the Middle East until a few years ago, and this was the camp of pragmatics that worked together against the camp of extremists. And all together we were there. I mean, it was Israel, Turkey, Jordan, Egypt, Mubarak's Egypt, the legitimate Palestinian government, and some Gulf states. With some we had relationship as Israel, with some we didn't, but we worked together in an understanding that we face the same nature of threat coming from the extremists in the region, the other camp that was and still is Iran, Syria, Hamas, and Hezbollah. It was my first meeting with him, but it was after the elections in the Palestinian Authority, so for the first time the discussion was about the legitimacy of Hamas. And it was quite interesting because he represented a party which is basically an Islamist party. And Hamas represents, I don't want to say the same ideology, but basically the same vision or the same basics in terms of Islamist group. And for him, it was not acceptable that what I was trying to do is to delegitimize Hamas. And because by delegitimizing Hamas, what he thought was always also, in a way, delegitimizing the party. And it took him some years to get legitimacy to this party, because before that they couldn't run for office. And the only way to get him on board and to have Erdogan supporting the quartet, if you recall the quartet requirements for Hamas, to accept the right of Israel to exist, to renounce violence and terrorism, and to accept former agreements between Israel and the Palestinians. The only way for him to accept this was by having an understanding that we have 2 different camps in the region. And as Turkey, as a state, who has relations, well, NATO member, or relations with the United States, and these were the days in which they tried also to be part of the EU before being, in a way, rejected. And the understanding was that if you want to be part of this free world, if you want to be part of this camp, you need to delegitimize Hamas. But there was also a price. It's not a price that Israel needed to pay, And this was the other side of the equation, and this was a dialogue with the legitimate Palestinian government in order to show the world that we are not just talking about peace, but we are willing also to pay prices which are needed in order to achieve peace with the legitimate Palestinian government, with the pragmatics, with the moderates on the Palestinian side. I was talking about Egypt, talking about Mubarak's Egypt, and now we have Morsi. We have leaders that are now weaker because of the changes. The streets now has more power, and we can face more extremism emerging in different parts of the region. The role of the international community is crucially important. It's not only about Israel and Turkey. And I believe that especially new leaders need to understand that they are expected to choose a side, to choose whether they are part of this camp or the other. I know that for many years Erdogan tried in a way to sit on the fence and to work with everybody. And Morsi is now looking for his path in the region. And the role of the international community, especially the United States, and we are not going to have the same president but new administration, is to send this message to the region. That there are things that are not accepted, like the situation in Syria, that the world would not accept a leader which is basically murdering and killing his own people, that every leader and country in the region need to decide whether they are part of the camp of terror, extremism, or part of the camp of pragmatics and moderation in the region. And if some state or leader is choosing another path, there is a price to it. I know that when I'm talking about Turkey, it's not only talking about Erdogan, or talking about the party that celebrates now 10 years of creation. It's not only about interest. I'm aware that this relates also to ideology. And I don't want to undermine the ideology. And I know that this is part of the policy of the government in Turkey. But I do believe that the last thing that we should do is to say, okay, it's ideology, we cannot win this, we are losing Turkey, Turkey is going and becoming more extremist, we cannot accept anything good coming out of this extremism. I believe that in the end, when it comes to leaders, they need to decide what is best for their countries, not only the ideology of the party. And since Turkey is in a quite sensitive position, and since Turkey faces in the region also different threats according to their understanding, I believe that we can find with the United States, with the international community, the interest that can create maybe not the same relationship, but relationship between Israel and Turkey, which are based on these interests and are not based on the ideology of the party that, unfortunately, we cannot share. And I want to finish my speech by saying the following. I know that there are those in Israel that are looking outside of Israel with fear, in a way, with concerns. They think that the world is changing and there is nothing to do about it. And it is true that the world is changing and the region is changing. And it is also true that we have more extremists in the region. We have leaders that are trying to choose their own path and way. We have in Egypt Morsi that represent the Muslim Brotherhood. King of Jordan is facing his own problems at home. Iran continuing in its attempt to achieve a nuclear weapon. But I cannot accept the idea saying that there is nothing to do against it. I cannot accept the idea saying, okay, I'm talking now about Israelis, saying the world is against us, Erdogan is an Islamist, there is no hope for any change, we should stick together, be united against those that are against us and do nothing. I think it's wrong. I think it's not the right policy for the state of Israel. And I believe that the responsibility of any Israeli government is to find the way to redefine the interest and to find a way to work together with other states. It can be public, it can be not public if it's not convenient to some of the leaders in the region, but this is our responsibility. Because being isolated when the region is changing is something that we cannot afford. So we cannot shape the future of the region, but we can influence in a way when it comes to the relations between Israel and different states in the region, including Turkey. Thank you.